The other aspect we're going to deal with here is getting along with other Christians. John 8 tells us all people are members of God's family, right? No, not at all. The worst kind of lie, self-delusion. The context here is in John 8, they're challenging Christ. They say, we be Abraham's seed, and we were never in bondage to any man. How sayest thou, ye shall be made free? Never in bondage? This is an example of self-delusion. Of course they were in bondage. They should know. In Egypt they were in bondage for 400 years. They were in bondage to the Philistines, the Ammonites, the Syrians, the Babylonians. And they were presently in bondage to Rome as they were speaking. That's a form of self-delusion. Now they were accusing him of being, they said, we are not born of fornication. They were accusing Christ as being illegitimate. Well, before the chapter's over, he explained to them about their parentage, and that's one of the great engagements in the Scripture there. He says, ye of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in truth, because there's no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. This is, I always intrigued with the direct confrontation, tension that is manifest in Scripture. Sometimes in our reading of Scripture, we don't pick up on the intensity of that kind of confrontation. But for God's children, by the way, God commands a visible earthly unity. In contrast, no, the concept of the brotherhood of man is a fiction from paganism. No, we are of the household of faith, and we are God's children. And among His children, we should have a visible earthly unity. And Paul's ultimate example, setting the basis of all of this, was, of course, the kenosis that we studied back in chapter 2, verses 5 to 11. But now he's continuing his advice here. He says, I beseech Euodias and beseech Syntyche that they be of the same mind in the Lord. These two apparently were two women that were at odds with one another, and the disagreement threatened the unity and effectiveness of the church. So Paul makes some reference to that. But then he goes on, and I entreat thee also, true yokefellow, help these women which labored with me in the gospel, and with Clement also, and with other my fellow laborers whose names are in the book of life. True yokefellow. By the way, that term is in the masculine form. It's probably a reference to Epaphroditus, who's already been described as my brother, fellow worker, and fellow soldier, who would now carry the letter from Philippi, to Philippi from Rome. So he'll be the actual messenger carrying it, as will be annotated when we get to the very end. Then he gives another command here. He says, rejoice in the Lord always. And again I say, rejoice. So in addition to working together, we also are commanded to rejoice in the Lord. Do you realize that when you do that, you're following His desire? And we spend too much of our time nitpicking or with a critical spirit of this or that. No. We should spend our time rejoicing in the Lord. And he emphasized that again and again. The word rejoice, by the way, is a variant of the word joy, one of the great Christian virtues. It's a supernatural fruit of the Spirit of God. It's not in the flesh, it's not natural, it's supernatural. And it's in contrast to happiness, which is a virtue of the world, which is entirely external and circumstantial. Your joy is not circumstantial. Your joy isn't external, it's internal. And so joy issues from the very nature of God. We need to understand that. There is holiness in joy. Then let your moderation be known unto all men, and the Lord is at hand. The word moderation, in the ISV, they say forbearing spirit. The NASB says forbearing. NIV says gentleness is another way to get the flavor of what's being communicated there. Let your forbearing spirit be known to all men, for the Lord is at hand.